Crypto is really noisy. And what do I mean by that? I mean that no matter where you're trying to understand what's going on in crypto, there's a lot of people just kind of sharing their opinions. And amongst this noise, it's a beautiful thing when you find signal. And for me, Raoul is signal. Now, I could go into who Raoul is and probably do an entire QuickPod or an entire 30-minute episode on his journey to finding decentralized finance or DeFi from the more traditional finance or TradFi world. He recently published a blog on his Substack, and I'll leave the link in the show notes, but I wanted to just share this with everyone because I think it's a really interesting idea of reframing the conversation around crypto. So that's all this episode is going to be. If you don't want to listen to the episode and you're done, you're like, okay, Jarrett, you're just going to read this guy's blog, then please just don't even listen to the episode because I think you going to read his Substack would be of the most value. And this is the first time I've actually done this on the podcast. Normally, I'm not going to just share someone else's content via my media platform, via my content. But I felt like this article was really fundamental and kind of foundational in I think how people are going to start to see and understand Bitcoin, Ethereum, and some of the other cryptocurrencies. So without further ado, let's dive right into this. I'm Jarrett Carpenter, and this is More Than Blockchain. Raoul's article is called The Economies of Crypto, and I'm just going to dive right in. In the article, he says, I want you to think about the Bitcoins and Ethereums of the world not as assets, but as economies. Once you do this, everything will become clearer, and the space becomes far easier to navigate. Now, the space that he's talking about is the cryptocurrency space. Maybe you could even say Web3, definitely decentralized finance or DeFi. And he says, the Bitcoin economy is founded on one basic narrative. Governments have destroyed the value of our currencies, and Bitcoin is the hard, independent money that will finally free us all. It is fiercely protective of the integrity of its protocol, how its society functions, and as a result, shuns innovation in the name of purity. Think of the Bitcoin economy as the Catholic Church back in the Dark Ages, or the gold bug community. There can only be one God or one asset. In the case of the Bitcoin economy, the only asset that exists is Bitcoin. So, if you wish to allocate capital to this economy, your only choice is to hodl Bitcoin. HODL standing for basically holding crypto or holding, in this case, Bitcoin forever, okay? He said, now let's look at the Ethereum economy. And he said, by the end of this piece, you will understand why Ethereum is likely to become much larger than the Bitcoin economy over the long term. Now, his take here on ETH being bigger than Bitcoin, I can tell you, irks and drives the Bitcoin maxi community, or as he's called it here, the Catholic Church of the Dark Ages community, insane. Because if you're a Bitcoin maxi, then as he's laid out here, there is only one God. There is only one asset. And everything else, pardon my Spanish here, is a shit coin, or is a coin that really doesn't matter. So what he's saying here for me is really important for everyone to hear, both Bitcoin maximalists or Bitcoin maxis or people that only believe in Bitcoin and people that are open to kind of everything else. He then goes on to say, the Ethereum economy is in many ways similar to the US economy. In this system, you can start out buying Ethereum, which has a deflationary supply, meaning there will be less of it as time goes on. Because of this, its quote unquote central bank, the staking, end quote, adheres to responsible monetary policy designed to ensure that value is upheld and not debased. That alone is a pretty good reason to own Ethereum, but there is more. As you can probably tell, Raoul is super bullish or super positive about Ethereum's long-term potential, not just as an investor, but as someone who is deeply interested in the cultural shifts and nuances that exist in Web3. He goes on to say, there's yield to be had. In the same way that you can purchase a treasury bond in the US and exchange receive a, quote, risk-free, end quote, yield, you can also do the same in the Ethereum economy. At the moment, you can get 5% real yield from the, quote, central bank, end quote. Staking ETH to get it being the 5% real yield, gives the soundness of ETH and its deflationary supply, plus the yield pickup. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, okay, that's pretty attractive, but maybe you're more like me and not really interested in staking. Well, in that case, just like in traditional markets, you can seek out higher yield by going further out on the risk curve. Where can this be done? In private sector lending DeFi. So, to review, you now have a sound currency, a government bond market, and a corporate bond market or banking sector. It's all becoming clearer now, isn't it? But let's continue. Maybe you just flat out don't care about yield and instead are looking for capital gains. The ETH economy here also works a little like the US economy. Now, it's here in the article where he goes into talk about one of his own plays where he took euros and exchanged it into dollars because he basically looked at what was going to happen into the future and he was like, well, I'm going to put him into dollars because he just thinks the dollar is going to do better than the euro. And that ended up working in his favor. He also talks about the decision he made to buy property in Miami and Cayman. And he also talks about how NFTs in his mind are, quote, call options on his ETH position. And I would just say go and dive into the article to dive deeper on what he's talking about there. I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to read this article verbatim, but I just wanted to call out some of the earlier ideas of how he, situates Bitcoin and Ethereum. And I'm going to go back into the article where he kind of continues to round out Ethereum. He says, it's still early for the ETH economy, and that is why it offers so many amazing opportunities. This is the fastest growing economy on Earth, and it comes with a sound central bank and a completely free market where capital is allocated and utilized rapidly. This is the fastest growing economy on Earth, and it comes with a sound central bank and a completely free market where capital is allocated and utilized rapidly. And he has in parentheses here, and destroyed rapidly too. Unlike the Bitcoin economy, the Ethereum economy is broad and deep and is practically a mirror of traditional economies, with the added bonus that it's been reinvented for the future. He now is going to talk about other protocols or other cryptocurrencies. Up to this point, he's basically just looked at Bitcoin and Ethereum as they are the two biggest elephants in the room, I guess you could say. He goes on to say, other protocols can be thought of as emerging markets or simply smaller economy markets. For example, you could think of XRP as the UK, an old economy that, while important and well established, does not grow very fast because of a lack of innovation. Solana, on the other hand, might be South Korea just after the Asian crisis when its currency and equity markets came crashing down. It was an unmatched opportunity that outperformed both the US dollar and SPX for 6 years. However, it did not stand the test of time. It failed to continue the outperformance. Who knows how Solana will play out? Many new participants will show up to stake their claim in the new world of crypto. And just as in the real world, some will flourish while others will be nothing more than a flash in the pan. And in kind of the outro of the article, he says, I hope this new framework helps you to better understand and navigate what I continue to believe is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He says, and this is his kind of not financial advice moment, if you take the time to put in the work, the rewards can be life-changing. As ever, good luck out there. And that's how he finishes the article. He then also, well, that's not truly how he finishes the article, as you'll see when you click and check it out. He kind of shouts out what he's doing with real vision and invites you to follow along. On a future episode, I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into Raoul Pal's and Real Vision, which is the company that he founded. They just launched an NFT collective or a collection, a community essentially. And on a future episode, I'm going to go into that community and why I think that NFT is going to be really powerful in the long run. But for right now, I just wanted to leave you with some of these words, share some of the article that he had just put out called The Economies of Crypto. And hopefully it allows you to maybe understand cryptocurrency, Bitcoin and Ethereum and how they play with the other cryptocurrencies, how Bitcoin maxis think, if you think of them as the Catholic Church in the Dark Ages, or if you're really into Ethereum and how that plays in and how it's kind of mimicking some of the more traditional financial markets. And the last thing I will say is that none of this is financial advice. And if you asked Raoul straight up, as he says a lot when he's interviewed, he says, you know what? This is what I'm thinking, but hey, it could all go to shit. What do I know? He says something, I'm paraphrasing, but more or less, no one really knows. Cryptocurrency, and if we just think about Bitcoin and Ethereum, which were two focuses of the blog that, Raoul and that I shared with you today, they're global assets that are worth billions and billions of dollars that are traded 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. They move at the speed of light and are extremely sensitive to changes in both the macro and even the micro. If Gary Gensler says something, it can shift the market. If Elon Musk says something, it can shift the market. If the price of oil changes, it can shift the market. If Coinbase does something, it might shift the market. If CZ tweets, it can shift the market. So It's a really exciting place to be. And in all of the noise I just spoke about, I do think that Raoul is signal. So hope you enjoyed this episode. Please be sure to check out the actual blog. I'll leave that in the show notes. Thanks so much for checking out this episode, and be sure to follow More Than Blockchain on social media at More Than Blockchain. And if you haven't done so already, please find us on YouTube at More Than Blockchain. I am putting up YouTube exclusive content now 2 or 3 times a week, and so be sure to follow us there. If you're listening to us on a podcast platform, please go ahead and subscribe. And if this episode offered you a new framework that you feel like is useful when thinking about Bitcoin or Ethereum or crypto in general, please go ahead and share it with a friend, colleague, a family member, DM them the link, text them the link, email them the link. And thanks again for checking out More Than Blockchain. I'll see you next time.